Cool. So, welcome everybody.
1 second. Somebody's got some awful feedback I'm hearing through their mic.
Up, we got a Larry Murdoch. We might have a Mike Pintea. Cool. Cool. We got 19 so far. There'll probably be a few more that pop in. My name is Chuck Jung. I'm referred to as Gumby for those of you who don't know. For who there's a few people that are new today. I teach at Winter Park, and I also teach at a tiny little bump north of Kansas City called Snow Creek. This will be my 24th year teaching there. All 188 vertical of it. And they actually have more snow. I actually was out there working with some candidates on Thursday, and they had more snow than I've ever seen. And then only one run was open at the time. More run than they've seen since I came back. And because, frankly, if you want to point at anything, climate change is real. I don't care what you say because Snow Creek, I don't think will be here in 5 years because there's just no way they can keep snow unless you have something weird like this, 12-incher that happened in a solid week of below 20 temperatures that were able to make a lot of snow. So anyway, that's a brief history about me, L3, Alpine L3, working on my RMT, CS2, FS1, SB1, but I never tell anybody that. SS2, which is senior specialist, and the list goes on and on. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. I took over this group 4 years ago. I think 4 years ago, coming up, when Jenny Lively went on one of her sabbaticals again, which she's kind of does that pretty often. But it was kind of Kate Chasson and Jenny Lively and Donnie Needers were the ones that started this. I always want to give them a little shout out, even though they don't really attend anymore. But they started this group, and I just kind of took it over. And welcome to everybody who came. How many of you are, raise a hands real quick, how many of you are Winter Park employees? Okay, Shannon is, and Drew, nice to meet you. And of course, Larry Murdoch. Gay, you sometimes are. Come on, put your hand up. Not the middle finger. Right, Addie, nice to meet you too. I don't know all of you, but feel free to reach out in the locker room and say hi to me so I can put a name to a face and we can actually have a conversation. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. So anyway, the topic of the day is the differences between basic, parallel, and performance turns. And the reason why I picked this topic is that we're getting there's a lot of people that are coming up on exam season right now. I mean, I know that several are like, for instance, oh my God. Oh, Kelby. Sorry, Kelby. I know Kelby's got one in 2 weeks. I've got one coming up in a week from Wednesday. I don't know Alex, where are you at right now? You got the teach and the ski, don't you?
I'm gonna do the teach at Crested Butte, and we'll see with my injury what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be a difficult one with torn meniscus. Don't worry, torn meniscus on both sides on the right knee. You can survive without it. You're just not going to be jumping up and down. So no more basketball for you.
Darn.
And no more slaps on the old jumps, right? I don't know where the rest of you are at. I'm not really as interested in that right now, but the point of the matter is that this topic came up because through some of your descriptions the last few weeks, we're still struggling with the idea of adding more dirt into the descriptions. The skis turn quickly at the top of the turn. How do they quick? Well, one turns more quickly than the other. These are those, is there an intensity involved? Is there a rate? Rate would be the skis turn quickly and then they stop turning. That would be a rate instead of being a progressive throughout the turn. And then timing, maybe they don't turn until they turn really, really early in the turn and then it's over and there isn't any more turning after that. Those would be examples of how we would institute dirt. So there's duration, intensity, rate, and timing. And so this is an opportunity for us to kind of look at basic parallels and then compare them to more performance turns and how the rate, timing, intensity, and duration are different. Does that make sense? Raise your hand if you don't understand what we're trying to talk about. Cool. Let's go ahead and get started. So I have obviously found great videos from Rocky Mountains. And we're going to go ahead and look at it. So which one do we want to do first? You want to look at basic parallel or medium radius turns?
Medium radius.
Medium radius, cool. Medium radius, dynamic medium radius. These are going to be, which is just another word for performance turns. And here is our turns. And what I'm looking for here is, can anybody point out any of those pieces? The duration, the intensity, the rate, and the timing. When do things happen and how much do they happen? And at what time do they happen? And how long do they happen?
It's my buddy Chris Kastner.
Is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got hair like you, Larry.
Yeah, right.
Left back, ready for action, disco look.
So Chuck, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was actually I had two level 6 kids today, all day, and I was trying to introduce that idea to them because they knew it. And to answer your question, it's really tough depending on the size and the weight and the agility or ability to move their exterior limbs, whatever.
Sure.
But I was trying to introduce something I did years ago, which was when you stand tall or you pull your feet under you, there's very little intensity. But as you come to the apex of the turn and press your edges, and with kids it's less, and you flex and there's more intensity. But to answer you accurately, I can't use all four descriptors at once.
No, sure. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is recognition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this particular, I could pick any of these, but their rate at which the skis turn,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously it's pretty obvious that the skis tips are following the tails in almost every one of these examples, but they turn pretty consistently from top to bottom.
True.
Right? So the duration piece is not only that they start turning at the top in the new direction, but they pretty much turn consistently throughout the turn, even to the finish. So that would be, and I'm only picking one of the fundamentals, right? I mean, I could pick any of the fundamentals. What the heck? Why do you not know what loop means? All right. And I could look at at any of the fundamentals and say the same thing. So if we picked out, say, fore aft, right? They're fairly well balanced over their feet consistently throughout the turn. I know this because the skis are bending in an arc consistently throughout the turn, and I'm getting performance from the ski, not to be confused with ski performance. And then some of them are moving more progressively forward at the beginning of the turn, and progressively towards the back to be able to hold on to those tail edges with their bodies. And that's done through the ankles, knees, and hips. But the ankles in almost all of these cases are
Yeah.
flexed. And especially at the beginning of the turn. Does anybody
Which is-
see anything do we need to look at the basic parallels now?
Sure.
I have
Yeah.
a question.
Yeah,
So with the dynamic parallel, it appears that they're on a much higher edge angle that
yep,
peaks at the apex into the end.
yep.
And it also seems that there's a greater difference between the inner and outer leg, so that ski to ski pressure, like there's a real dynamism between the inside knee bending up and the outside leg extending down.
Yeah, the new outside leg, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So those two things kind of unique to the dynamic parallel?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's not really a definition of the dynamic parallel. We just kind of know it when we see it. I like to think of it as not only are we we're giving performance to the ski, but we're also getting performance out of the ski. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
In basic parallel, yeah, we're getting a little bit of performance out of the ski, but we're not getting the snap. We're not getting that kind of dynamism out of the ski as we would in these kind of more high energy, more high speed turns.
I was gonna say the skier is much more athletic in the dynamic parallel.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. There's a lot of movement going on, right?
Mhm. And his center of mass is moving inside to a greater degree, maybe? As a
Well,
result.
yeah, because they have to resist forces, don't they?
Mhm. So is that the
Mhm.
centripetal force that is making the ski bend?
It
to-
is a
to an arc?
centrifugal force that is causing the body to bend the ski. Yes,
The body to bend the ski.
yes.
Back to dirt on that, Chuck, on the more dynamic short radius turns,
Mhm.
the timing is quicker. They're roughly 1 second turns. The intensity of the energy and the movement of the skier is a lot higher.
Yeah.
Lots
I mean-
and lots more movement as we refer it back to dirt as compared to the basic parallel turns. Those turns have got the timing is slower and more like 2 second turns. You don't see as high of an intensity of the energy into the turn or the flexion and extension movements either, as long as we're keeping along with dirt.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. And we have this guy's not putting a lot of intensity in the turn, right? And then there's this one here. This is not really as intense. This one's not as intense.
Mhm.
It's slowed down, obviously. And then, Larry's buddy here, that's a very much, much more intense. He's getting more snap back. He's loading the ski more, which is allowing the ski to kind of, help him from turn to turn. These are great examples of.
There's also less up and down movement with the dynamic turns. It's more diagonal, and they're much more squat, if you will.
Yeah. Well, you have to resist the forces early, don't you?
So
Because not only are we changing direction, but the center of mass is moving in a new direction. Now we got to get to move in a new direction again in the opposite direction. And we have to harness that energy as quickly as we possibly can. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that goes back to, or that goes along with the controlling the magnitude of pressure.
Yeah.
Right. So you see a lot more absorption type movements. when they get from apex through finish, then you do see in a basic parallel.
Cool. Let's look at basic parallels. Yeah, let's go back to here. Here we go. Sorry for the subtitles. And just understand that these particular basic parallels, for some reason, I can't seem to find a different one. But these basic parallels are from like, what, 2013, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. And there's more expectation now.
Mhm.
They don't
So-
seem as pivoty.
No, they're steered turns, aren't they?
Mhm.
What's
I
the
mean-
more expectation, Chuck,
Well, I mean, I
on
would
these
like to see a
turns?
little bit, I would like to see a little bit more counter.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay. But you know, things change over the years. So how much more counter? I mean, these are not high performance turns. So the ability to balance over the outside edge, ability to extend pressure to the outside ski is not quite the same as it would be in these turns, right? Which are expected to be more performancey because we're getting kickback from the skis. We're getting feedback from the skis. But here's your key statement. Skis maintain a consistent parallel relationship throughout and are actively steered to control speed. The actively steered is that piece that you're looking for.
So Chuck, if we're talking from an instruction point of view, following that description, using the CAT model, so cognitively you've described it.
Mhm.
And physically, if I'm trying to get children or young or early adults to learn from each other, I always refer to looking at the trail. If it's dynamic, it's round, and looking at the intensity in which they move through the turn.
Sure.
Is that enough, or do you need more to go from parallel to dynamic parallel?
Well, speed helps. Terrain helps.
Yeah, you work your way up.
Yeah, when you start, that's kind of like those three things: speed, terrain, and shape of the turn are going to help those quite a bit. These, the basic parallels that these are being done on, they don't look like they're blue or blue-black terrain.
Right.
Look like they're on greens. I mean, this guy is 50 yards down the hill, and he just still looks like he's only like 4 feet in elevation change right now.
So I'll pose this to you and Larry, just because this is a northeastern derivative of my making. When I'm trying to explain people the full dynamic of the turn, and when you're going from basic parallel to dynamic parallel, I tell them that there's a beginning, the middle, the apex, and the end. But somewhere, if we're using the aspects you're describing, somewhere between the apex and the end, I call it the belly of the turn, you get a feeling of, I call it the whoopee, because in Maine we created the whoopee cake. But you get this whoopee feeling because those edges suddenly release and glide you into that sort of transition space to start the new one. Is that accurate, or should I be adding more to that?
Larry, do you want to comment to that?
I was gonna say, it depends on what your translation of whoopee.
Well, it's that point where because we're not talking technical, we're talking,
Right,
helping.
right.
But the whole point is, in the apex, you are really guiding your skis, your edging, your
Right.
rotary, whatever. But between that and the point where you want to pull your feet under you and flat and initiate the new turn, there is a release moment when that pressure kind of dissipates as it lets you go into that new transition. And that's
Yeah,
where that's my whoopee point.
right, right. Yeah. You know, when you start working with the performance of the ski, you know, one of the premises that we talk about is the energy traveling from tip to tail.
Yes.
And and when you bend a ski in a little higher intensity or a more intense type of turn, what you get is you get a bend in the ski along with the side cut of the ski. And in that transition, you get an acceleration point as well. And that comes from the ski performance.
Cool. So that's fairly accurate. I'm just giving it a silly name.
Yeah,
But you know, for me, when you're trying to teach people, you have to give them a kinetic, you have to give them a visual, a demo, and you have
Oh
to
yeah. Yeah,
explain it. And for
no
some
question.
reason, when you see, because if they don't go, by my terms, through the whippy term, they're not going to finish their turn. But if they don't finish their turn, they can't rebalance and start the next one. So it's pretty basic, but in the Northeast,
Hmm.
people tend to rely on their edges or no edges, you know, just sliding, side slipping. That's the word I came up with. But I think your description is very accurate, Larry.
yeah, so
Yeah, the idea of the energy moving sideways through the finish versus along the length of the ski. Because that's what you get when you do ski on that eastern snow or eastern ice, if you will. What you get is you get a lot of lateral displacement. So the engagement, a greater engagement of the edge, or a controlled engagement of the edge is what controls the travel of the ski.
Right. And when you let that go, you get that sense of release.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, because it's, you know, if you don't have it, for me, if I don't have a term, then I can't see in the performance of the kids whether they get it. You know, it's like, did it work? No, then let's try again.
cool. So anybody else want to comment on the differences between the dynamic and the basic parallel with emphasis on dirt? What are the similarities?
Skis are
Anybody point out?
parallel throughout the turn.
Well, sure.
They stay.
Let's talk about body performance and ski performance. What are the similarities?
Skis are being guided simultaneously from turn to turn.
Cool. What else?
They're also tipping,
Yep.
but it's a different degree of tipping
Yeah,
from the
sure. Not as
initiation through to the finish.
yeah, but there is the similarity is that in spite of the fact that they're not tipping as much, the tipping rate is about the same, isn't it?
Tipping rate.
Should be.
Right? They tip and then they untip.
Right.
And this is a perfect example of watching tipping and then untipping. And he gets to that point right there, and then he untips and then he tips again. And then his maximum edge angles are kind of at the
Right.
apex, and then he begins to untip. Same. This one's a little bit more hanging on, but. And then when we're here, he tips at the beginning of the turn. He untips, and then he starts the new direction. So the rate of the tipping in relation to the turn, the rate of the tipping is
Continuous, right?
continuous.
And
Right?
could you say that the pressure part is primarily determined by the incline, the steepness of the slope?
Yeah, because we have relative edging too, right?
Right.
Because we're not on flat ground.
Right.
And the more that we tip, we are tipping in relation to the hill. So we may
Right.
be tipping just as much at the top of the turn or at the beginning of the shaping, but we would have more tipping at the end of shaping because of the
Pressure.
relative hill, right? Does that
Right.
make sense? I said that I kind of butchered the way I said that, but yeah, I think you guys understand that. As we tip through the turn, we might have relative tipping here, but we're at a slope, so the relative amount of tipping at the top of the shaping phase will be smaller, but
Right.
tipping at the bottom of the shaping will be more, even though relative to the body, it's not as much because now we're going against the hill. So the tipping doesn't change, the relative amount of tipping changes in relation to the hill. Mike, is there a better way to say this?
Well,
I feel like I butchered the hell out of that.
yes and no. I mean, the question you stated, what are the commonalities? If
Yeah.
you guys remember, these are all part of the new integrated tasks. So the commonalities are the 6 common threads.
Right,
Help me
and
out,
then
Mike. So are that fundamentals plus dirt?
They're in there. The common threads
Yeah.
often incorporate more than one fundamental.
Yeah, you can't look at the common threads and say, oh, gee, stable upper body allows for lower body mobility. That sounds a lot like rotation.
But you know, there are things evident like the skis stay on the snow, or there is a independent flexion and extension of the legs to move the center of mass forward and down the hill.
Right. And then there's, guiding / steering of the tips down the hill.
Both skis start the
initiation
turn at the same time,
at the
aim
same
down the hill at
time.
the same time.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
the
it's,
descriptors.
yeah.
So what are the six things?
So both skis, well, I was in the email from last week. Both skis need to be on the ground at all times. And remember, this is just for these tasks. Both skis need to remain on the snow at all times. Both skis begin the turn at initiation by being guided. Or
Simultaneously guided.
steered, simultaneously guided / steered, depending on who you talk to, into the new turn. Flexion and extension.
Ankles work in unison, creating matching forward angles.
Yes. Flexion, actually, here it is. Subsole flexion extension movements move the center of mass laterally.
And here's the big one, which we saw in the more dynamic terms, but we don't see in the basics here, and that is a countered relation between the upper and lower body is maintained through the transition.
Oh, yeah.
And then
it kind of isn't maintained in our demo here for basic parallel. Unless Larry wants to speak to that one. There is some, but it's pretty minimal if it's there at all.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal. I agree.
But this doesn't apply. I thought that a common thread applies also to like wedge turns, wedge Christies.
Wedge Christie, wedge turns, basic parallels, and dynamic parallels. Those are all subject to
these 6 things.
Yep, and as long as it's on basically bluish terrain, green to bluish terrain, and they're medium radius turns, which these are. Now, these common threads, you can see them in other things, but there will be slight deviations.
Yeah.
For instance, some of them will all be there if we're doing bump turns, skiing the bumps. Some of them are going to be modified a little bit, like the tips may not always be on the snow all the time.
And alternatively, sometimes the tails will not be on the snow.
Or the ski may not be on the snow.
Exactly. So,
Or the skier may not be on the snow.
right?
There would be on this.
But some of them are really, really important. Like skiing in and out of counter is a big deal.
Yep.
Upper body stability, promoting lower body mobility.
Mobility.
is a
I think
big
that's a
deal.
great catchphrase.
That's a big deal, right?
That's,
Those are things that we need to be striving to be doing.
Those were the things that we focused on last night in our Saturday evening MAs was what is the outcome of that upper body stability? And I had two people that I went out and coached, and we looked at video before and after, and our big focus was truly on the upper body stability. And what it did was it allowed them to shape their turns better, get more displacement of the feet and legs across the hill, and then the upper body again just became more stable. And the result was it was pretty substantial in the two videos.
And myself working with the maintaining counter through transition, where that really, really became noticeable is at starting the turns, especially on lower pitch terrain and slower speeds. The turns start so much easier if you have the ability to maintain that counter through transition.
Is the counter less, or is it get more increased as you go up from wedge to wedge Christie to basic parallel or open
It
parallel to dynamic?
increases the more you're in the fall line. Do you want to comment on that, Larry?
Yeah. I mean, you can watch these dynamic turns here and you'll see the skis travel to a place. If I was facing straight down the hill, the skis travel from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock pretty consistently. And the skiers are trying to keep their torsos facing down the hill. Once you create a more dynamic turn, your body follows the skis more, a bit more as the skis come across the hill to that 3 and 9. Does that make sense? It's like my upper body is still moving with the skis with the intent of keeping it facing down the hill, but I'm not countering to the point that I lose the support of the body against the ski. You know, if I turn too far, or if I try and keep my upper body too facing directly down the hill, and I'm trying to turn my skis farther across the hill, all of a sudden I lose support of my upper body. I lose support both laterally and rotationally.
Yeah, and you get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look at the more basic parallel, you see that there's a counter there, but it isn't as directed down the hill as it is in the more dynamic. From a teaching perspective, if you have people on appropriate terrain doing shorter radius turns, it's easier for them to maintain a downward or down the slope focus with the sternum than it is for bigger radius turns.
Mm-hmm.
And Katie and Alex were kind enough to go ahead and put those common threads in the chat. The one thing I will say is that those are key ingredients to good skiing, things that we should be looking for, but they're from a 5,000 or 5,000 foot view, right? We're not ignoring the fundamentals, which are kind of like the tools in the toolboxes, and that are going to help us institute a change. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Is steering or guiding the same as rotating and tipping together?
Yes. Yes, right now at this point in time, yeah, and I have a difference of opinion there because I think guiding is different than steering. Guiding is, for me, is turning the ski without much edge angle on it at all. And steering is where there is a edge angle and but we're adding rotation in.
Thank you.
That's my opinion. Right now, they're synonymous. Guiding and steering are literally, as in the PSIAs, this is directly from GenMats. Guiding and steering are identical in the eyes of PSIA right now. Which
And
means
but see,
rotating and then
this is just an aside, but in the technical manual, steering is in there and is identified. Guiding is not.
yeah, guiding is no longer there. But they used to have two different meanings. This is again according to GenMats. They used to have two different meanings, and then they both had the same meaning, and then they just used steering. But it does say guiding in the in the common threads. Both skis are guided simultaneously into the new turn.
Yep.
So now we have to define what guiding is. And right now, in the eyes of the PSIA, guiding is the same as steering, even though I think technically they're a little bit different.
Yeah, I would call it equivalent to steering versus equal to steering.
Exactly.
And the common threads are also found in the IDP on the top of the integrated task sheet.
Yes. And I sent you that, I sent everybody the new IDP now. This is a Rocky Mountain IDP, right? But I still believe firmly that most of the divisions are going to be following that same kind of IDP. There might be some language changes a little bit, but the ideal is still there. And please look at the IDP. It's just a great resource. So phenomenal resource.
You know, and I think I would agree with Chuck as we're going to see the IDP in all of the regions, if for no other reason, most of the people on the writing committees are essentially lazy. And if there's a document out there that's fairly well written and addresses all of the issues, they're going to pretty much kludge most of that one. And you guys can argue with me if you want.
All right. So anyway, with that said, we've looked at this. I've got a stable of basic parallel candidates or people to look at. Oh, we got to go through the one that we were looking at first, right? So luckily she's right here. All right. So this is somebody who is doing you got to be kidding me. Really?
Come on, Chuck. What are you doing with these commercials in here? I thought you got rid of them.
I don't know what's going on. Anyway, here is a L2 candidate going down Allen Phipps at Winter Park. How is this different than the ideal?
Versus back and leaning.
Let me count the ways.
Okay. Let's just pick one and something that is not your bias.
In other words, don't start with fore aft.
And there's a reason why we don't start with fore aft in the Rockies is because that's just low hanging fruit, right? I mean, even in some of our L3, that's going to be an issue, but we can conquer that issue through other fundamentals.
Right. So we can start with this inclination with that angulation.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the lack of upper and lower body separation.
Okay, how is that described in the skiing?
I guess I have to pick a point of the turn. As that person is finishing turn, coming to transition, they're inclining and they
They're-
could have countered it with upper and lower body separation, but there's not there. I'm not so sure how to describe that.
Okay, who is that? Is that you, Gay?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, everybody covered up with breakout rooms right now, so it's hard to tell. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, in terms of the ideal, come on, let's go. Here's the ideal, right? We have some inclination early in the turn, but we kind of turn it into some angulation, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then here, because of the intensity of the turn, there is an inclination moment, right? Like right there, right? That's inclination. But he's also tipping the lower legs into
Yes.
the new turn, and then he's already incorporated some angulation because he has to resist forces early to help him redirect his center of mass. She, however, oh, come on, get off the screen. Help me out here. There we go. She is not really incorporating any angulation. So it's just tip and then tip
Flat.
Yep.
and then tip and then tip. So this is like the metronome, isn't it?
Interesting metaphor.
Also, Chuck, in terms of the dirt,
Mhm.
does it seem like the skis are being actively steered consistently throughout the turn?
Okay.
And the tipping is not happening at the same time. Looks like
Same time as what? Each
The-
other?
simultaneously, it looks like
Ah, okay,
there's a
cool.
little bit of timing issue off on the edging.
Cool, cool. Yeah, it's kind of like, right?
Yeah,
Can I make a suggestion for the
Yeah, go
others?
ahead.
Maybe look, this is a little bit of a tip off. Maybe look at the top of the turn and the shaping phase of the turn, the initiation and the shaping phase, and look at the rate at which those two occur.
Mhm.
So is the top slower and below the apex faster?
The other way.
No, I think it's the other way. It's like
Yeah.
right there.
I'm
Really
asking,
quick.
I can't see. Yeah.
That's a really, really quick turn at the top. Now she's kind of like up. And then she gets to here. That was really fast. That was literally your shaping phase, right? Shaping phase is now over and she is in the finish, and then everything stops. And then it's like a real quick. I mean, this is the definition of a Z-shaped turn, right? Real quick turn, then a long finish, then a real quick turn, and a long finish, real quick turn, and a long finish.
So it might be more simple to state it that the rotation rate of the skis from transition to fall line is very rapid. The rate of rotation of the skis from fall line into finish is very slow. It also gives for a very long finish of the turn. And I'm specifically using fall line versus apex because depending on your background, apex usually infers a vertical amplitude, not a horizontal amplitude.
Oh my God, that's too many syllables, dude.
That may be true, but
Yeah.
It is something since, you know, they're getting all of these college people starting to write up some of this stuff. My guess is we're going to start seeing changes in that. But if I say fall line, everybody pretty much understands what fall line is.
Cool. So we've kind of attacked edging. We've kind of attacked rotation. What about foot to foot pressure? How does that look?
And Kelby has a question, Chuck.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see. Sorry, Kelby.
No
What's your
worries.
question? Yeah, go ahead.
Just so a question, when at the exam, before you start to dive down into a skill or a fundamental, talking big picture, can you just say, I see the movement patterns at the top of the turn happening very quickly or very abruptly.
Yep.
So movement patterns is okay. You don't have to dive in with a skill or fundamental right away.
Well, just beware that if you say something along the lines of movement patterns, they're going to have you describe the movement pattern, right? That may be too broad a description for them to like be happy with. So you're going to be saying, hey, what I've noticed is there's a very abruptness to the way that she skis, which causes a Z-shaped turn. And the two things I'm going to be looking at are going to be outside ski pressure and edging. And what I'm noticing is that she's on an edge at the finish, then she's quickly off the edge, and then she's onto the new edge literally after the apex. And there's a real quick movement to get there. And there's not really like a progressive long leg, short leg that's going to allow her to do that more progressively. So it's kind of like, is there really one leg that's shorter than the other? Not really. So she's really kind of pushing the ski out, and she's pushing the ski out to an edge. Right. And I really haven't described that there's a rotational piece in there, but that's the implication, is that she's just rotating to an edge. Because that's broad enough to encapsulate what we see, but narrow enough to get rid of the stuff that we don't really have. From a level 3, not interested. Why do we want to describe the long finish? That's not important. The important part is the action that's happening. In L2, we need to say, okay, from an edging standpoint, there is a sequential movement at the top of the turn where one ski kind of moves away and the other ski kind of follows. And that's how she gets edged. The maximum edge angle is after the apex of the turn. And then it kind of remains the same through the finish. And then there's a quick movement into the next turn. It's kind of rinse and repeat. Ideally, what I'd like to see is more progressive edging from a flat at the initiation. I'd like to see her slowly move into the new edges with edge angles at their maximum, somewhere around apex, fall line, maybe a little bit after, and then begin to slowly de-tip, untip. And that would be pretty accurate level 2.
Can you just say slowly release the edges?
You could say slowly release, but again, what does release mean, right?
Well, it's the same thing, but.
Right, it does, but you want to say tipping and untipping, because that's the actual description of the ski performance. And then you would go through the whole, what's the body doing in order for that to happen?
Can I ask you a question from an instructional point of view with this?
Yeah, sure.
So in the Northeast, the people who seem to be the most fluid skiers are all old racers. And someone asked me to follow them and say, would they pass a level 2? And I said, I can only say I don't see the belly of your turn. Is they go from tip to tip, it's what do you call it? Edge release?
High edge to high edge.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Guilty, 100%.
So from an educational point of view, to have a dynamic parallel turn, everything has to just basically be more gradual, right? I mean, for lack of a better word.
It's more gradual in the sense of it's a relative, right? I mean, you look
Right.
at this guy in the green, it's relative gradual, right? It
Right.
just seems like he's quickly moving from one set of edges to another.
Right.
There is time there where he has a float phase where both skis are flat, and then he rotates in. I'm sorry. Then he edges in, and then the skis engage, and then off he goes around the other way. So there is a float phase in there. All of these guys have a little bit of a float phase, which is kind of important. Because people, come on. I mean, why do our guests do what they do with their edges? Just randomly. Why do they do what they do with their edges?
Because they're scared.
They're scared. And what do they do when they were scared? Ugh.
Defensive. Yeah.
They become defensive. And they use a lot of high edge angles late in the turn because they don't want to go down the hill. They want to go up the hill. And then as ski instructors, we have to tell them, hey, that's not really an efficient way to do that. We're combating their fear with, hey, we want you to be more in control. And we want you to have control higher in the arc. And the only way we can do that is to do more of a progressive movement through the turn.
So Gay, it was a great observation you had. You need to take that a little bit further with the fact that the turn shape itself is roughly equal to the entrance and exit phases of the turn.
Which is that
So there's a
wonderful bend.
yeah, there's that progression in there. So it's almost like they're skiing in a box where the time across the hill is the same as the time down the hill.
Okay.
Where if we look at the movement analysis of the lady, if that was a lady, whatever it was, you'll find that there's a very abrupt, call it a turn spike, if you will. But the
Right.
finish phase is really elongated.
Okay.
And so it's not progressive movements through the turn shapes. It's this long finish with an abrupt turn phase and then another long finish.
So, Mike, in terms of coaching, what I try to tell them is as you get in a higher level of ski, you have to use your whole foot, of which there are 10 toes, and you want to have them all progressively moving in one direction or the other to give that sort of dynamic, because I just see people going from edge to edge, and I don't know,
Right.
is there a better way to describe it?
That's
You know, I would have to add a forward component to that. Because if they just go from here to here, that requires a very high degree of athleticism. And when you're trying to teach here to here with most people, the first thing their gray matter says is, I don't want to go down the hill because I'm going to die. But if you add a forward component to it,
The frontagonal move
the
with the
foragonal or whatever you want to call it, it's not as scary because they're not going laterally, strictly lateral anymore. They're actually going forward and lateral. So they're going to a shallower point of the hill.
okay.
So if you can get them to feel their toes moving, but maybe more importantly, to feel the edge and feel all the plastic. So go from steel to plastic and feel the plastic and then steel, to slow this movement down and allow them to feel the front of the boot a little bit, it may be more successful.
Okay.
And Larry may have a thought on that as well as Chuck.
I think Larry might, no, it's 100% true. I think Larry might have vacated us.
Yeah.
So, but that's all
So
right.
you're stuck with me now.
Yeah, you're stuck. I'm stuck with you. So anyway, sorry, we got to move this right along. Any other questions about this skier? You've got 30 seconds to answer or ask it. Because I got to move to breakout rooms because it's time for us to do our MAs. All right. All right, cool. Go to your rooms. I'm going to bring in and drop it, come in and drop a video. And one fundamental for the L2s, one fundamental with a backup fundamental would be nice.
And you guys will be happy to know I slammed the door when Chuck sent me to my room and he took the door off the hinges. Well, AJ, I'm not thinking we're everybody. Or you're going to be really busy.
So the initial is moving to the outside ski using the stem, which will accentuate and improve the edging to guide the ski around or to guide the turn around so it's more equal at the beginning and the end, no?
We don't get nice soft moguls like that.
Yeah, so tell me your name.
Oh.
Hey, Levi. And Levi, how long you been skiing?
Let me say like 5 years,
5 years. And how often do you get out?
Who is this?
3 or 4 times a year.
And tell me what other sports do you like to do?
I like to play soccer,
Who
swim,
is that?
skiing, of course.
Yeah.
I like to do a lot of things.
Favorite subject?
That's you, Gay. All right, cool. Who wants to go first? Raise your hand. I gotta go through all this. All right, AJ's, you put your hand up first. I saw you, so let's go to your skier. Do you need it up on the screen? Because preferably you shouldn't.
The answer is no, because they were all perfect. That's RMA.
So I was mean to the L3 group, and I gave them a basic parallel of different size turns with Ann Shorling. Because I was mean. Why not? I mean, come on. So I'm going to be a nice guy, and I'm going to actually put it up anyway. And
Anne and Matt and Robin, all team or ex-team members. They're
yeah,
perfect.
it's pretty damn good, right? I mean, when you watch it, the movements are really good. So anyway, go anyway. There's always something. I won't tell her or her father. Let's put it that way.
So I'll let Kelby go because she's got to go for the exam, and
Yeah, cool.
she led.
Are you sure?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, thank you. So big picture, what I see is with Anne, the skis are being guided simultaneously through all 3 phases from turn to turn. The skis rotate separate from the upper body from turn to turn. I see the skis tip and then turn together from phase to phase. Pressure is being directed towards the outside ski continuously from turn to turn, phase to phase. The skis stay in contact with the snow. What I would like to speak to is the ski to ski and edging. As the skier moves from the initiation phase of the turn, the upper body aligns over to the outside ski, which allows pressure to be directed towards the outside ski. As the skier moves from the initiation to shaping, the upper body continues to align over the outside ski and pressure is directed towards the outside ski. As the skier moves in from shaping to finish, the pressure becomes more even from ski to ski. And then as the skier wash, rinse, repeat, when the skier turns the opposing direction, due to the skier directing pressure towards the outside ski consistently from turn to turn, this allows the skier to release the edges together at the top of the turn and tip the edges simultaneously together throughout all 3 phases due to pressure being directed towards the outside ski. All ideal movements, what I'd like to see is if the skier can do this in off-piste terrain.
Groovy. Oh, you redirected. That's just wrong. That was good. Is there any other point in turn, if you were to point at a different fundamental and say, hey, this could be a little bit better, what would that fundamental be?
So Alex was the one that actually pointed out the extension at the top of the turn.
Okay.
And we talked about that maybe the snow conditions. because everyone seems to be doing it slightly.
Mhm.
I tend to think it might be because the terrain's a little flatter. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you're speaking to more of moving along the length of the ski?
Mm.
You'd like to see maybe a little bit more directional movement?
A little more directional, lateral, forward, sideways type movement at the top
Yeah.
of the turn.
How would that change the look of the turn?
It might slow down the top of the turn a little.
Okay. Not quite so quick? I mean, honestly, is the top of the turn the same as the bottom of the turn?
It is.
It is. It is. I mean, come on, this is Anne frickin' Shorling, right? She embarrasses a lot of the men on this frickin' team. The only thing I really see in here is maybe the last two turns at the bottom where the tip doesn't quite follow the tail, or the tail doesn't quite follow the tip. It gets a little pivoty. And we'll go back because unfortunately there isn't these top turns are really accurate, really accurate, really accurate. That's just really accurate. Really nice steering, as you described. Really nice edging.
You know,
And then she
I
gets
agree with
about,
all of those
gets about
descriptions.
right here. All of a sudden, the tail starts to kind of give. Right there. And right there. That would be that kind of, so in my opinion, your analysis is pretty good. I would say maybe that fore aft thing might be an issue more at those bottom because it's really accurate here at the top. It's hard to pick out that one or two pieces. And I understand I'm not supposed to look at the bottom two turns, but Dan frickin' Shorley, we got to pick on something.
Well, I'm gonna agree with pretty much everything that everyone said, but because these are basic parallel turns and the year it was generated, she is not maintaining a counter through the transition.
No, it
And
depends.
so I think taking her to a different venue or a different task is a great way to see if this movement patterns will actually hold up, or even going to flatter terrain on this, which will make it even harder for what she's doing.
Yeah.
Without having that counter in there.
Yeah. So, like I said, I liked where you went with that. It's kind of cheating. But I mean, honestly, in an L3 exam, you might run into somebody like this and they're going to be uber accurate. What are you going to do? You're going to be like, oh, I got to find something to do. I mean, how would they do this in steeper? What would happen if it was more broken snow? How would this if it was in bumps, right? They're really accurate here. We got to kind of challenge them to find those pieces that kind of break down a little bit.
So yeah, I totally agree with where you went with that. Change the terrain, change the task or something.
100%. And I liked where you went with the fore aft because I think those last couple of turns there, she kind of loses it. You know what I mean?
I can't take credit for that. Alex pointed that out.
Yeah. There you go, Alex. You get bonus. You get a gold star. Kelby, that was really good. I'm like, that was really impressive. You kind of binded it all together. Did you remind me again? Did you show a relationship between the edging and the rotation? What was that relationship?
Not between edging and rotation, edging and
Okay.
ski.
Edging and ski to ski. Okay. What was that? What was a relationship again?
Because the skier directs pressure towards the outside ski consistently that allows the skier to flatten and tip the skis
Yeah.
together.
And it's uber accurate, right? I mean, you can see a long leg, short leg there. There's tipping, and there's angulation, there's inclination, right? The appropriate amount. You know, okay. Yeah. And if we subtract the bottom two turns and the top two turns, wow, I mean, what do you say, right? Except, hey, let's take them somewhere else. How would this change if we did them in bumps? All right, cool. Who's ready for the next one? Oh, good Lord. Roman's the only one left in room 3. Gay, are you ready for yours? And you had
The guy in orange,
this guy.
L2 BP practice number 5.
Yep, there we go. Oh, he's a dig me skier. Cool. What fundamentals did you and Kimberly come up with?
Rotation and ski to ski pressure.
Cool. Who wants to do rotation?
I'll do rotation.
All right.
Okay, so looking at the skis, we noticed that, whoops, where do you go? We noticed that he turned quickly at the top of the turn. He was in the apex for a moment and spent much more time at the end of the turn.
Okay.
His body, his upper body was involved in the rotation.
Cool.
So the upper body was leading the rotation rather than the upper body being quiet and still as the legs turn around that stable upper body.
Okay, cool. Does one ski turn before the other?
Well, we did notice that there was a slight convergence going into the turn and a slight divergence coming out of the turn. So I think that would mean the outer ski is turning faster than the inner ski for that
Briefly.
convergence.
Right.
And for the divergence coming out, that could be the inner ski turning more.
Yeah.
We also know, like in an ideal world, he would have tipped his skis and got on that outer ski, the edge of the outer ski early in the initiation.
Yeah, but we're talking about rotation, right?
So we're staying with rotation.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's just stick to rotation. So I'm hearing that one ski turns before the other, the outside ski turns before the inside, that creates a divergence. When does that happen?
I think at the initiation.
Okay. And then when does the outside or the inside ski diverge from the inside ski?
After the apex.
Okay.
And through
And
the
then
ending of the turn.
how quickly does all that happen? How quickly? Is there an intensity? Is there a timing issue?
Yeah, the upper part of the turn happens very quickly, and he spends more time in the finishing of the turn.
Okay. So there's like a quick
Yeah.
rotation at where? Initiation or shaping or?
He could, yeah, there's a quick rotation at the initiation and shaping phase.
Yeah.
And
So,
we'd like that to be spread out more.
yeah. So which one? The initiation or the shaping? Or both?
I would say initiation.
Initiation? Okay. At what point in time is he in the shaping phase?
Now, for a short period of time.
How short a period of time?
A moment.
blink, right?
Yeah,
So we'd probably want to be more, extend that kind of shaping phase a little bit,
yes,
because the rotation is like kind of instantaneous. I mean, he's
yeah,
there,
it's kind of,
now he's there.
yeah,
He's there, and now he's there.
there,
Right? And I mean, there's like, so the shaping phase is almost non-existent.
yes,
I mean, it's initiation straight to finish.
yeah. So it's like a Z turn,
It's a
a Z
100.
shape.
This is the very definition of a Z-shaped turn, right? It's Z. I mean, it is a blink,
Z.
right?
Mhm,
So be ready to speak to that, how short that shaping phase is, and
mhm.
how you would expand that out. Because there's supposed to be 3 equal phases.
Right,
An initiation that's this long, a shaping that's this long, and a finish that's this long. And
so can that be completely corrected through just rotary? I mean, I was thinking you
no,
really
no, no,
need it.
don't,
Okay,
let's get too hung up in prioritization,
okay,
because I mean, you can speak to that, but that'll win you extra points as long as you properly describe the fundamental that you're working on at that point in time, right? Because there's lots of things that are going on with this guy, right? But I think you accurately described the fundamental that you're working on, which is rotation. There's upper body rotation, and it causes the skis to quickly pivot onto the new edges. Well, I shouldn't even say new edges. They quickly pivot. And so the initiation is like from here to here, and then there's your shaping and it's over.
so what I'd like to see is a more progressive turning of the skis through the
Mhm.
initiation, the shaping, and the finish.
Okay. Are we still going to have a sequential movement or a simultaneous movement?
We would like a simultaneous movement.
So we'd like to have, speaking to the common threads, we would like to see the skis guided simultaneously into the turn and then continue to rotate through the middle of the turn and then continue to rotate through the finish of the turn instead of flat to turn quick to flat again. And then the body to do that, what would you like to have the body do in order to get the skis to do that?
Well, I'd like the body to be stable and quiet and not initiating the turn.
Okay.
So I'd like his shoulders, not to be swinging the shoulder and hip around.
Mhm. Oh,
I think we need, well, we've got some inclination going on, but we can't go there. We can't go there. Okay.
You're already putting on your turn signal again.
Oh, okay.
I understand there's an inclination that's happening and not much angulation, but that's another fundamental.
Okay. So I
So
just like his
talk-
body his upper body to be quiet facing down the hill.
upper body quiet and facing down the hill. And what would the legs be doing underneath this quiet upper body that's facing down the hill?
They would be turning simultaneously through all phases of the turn under the quiet upper body.
Cool. There you go. So that sounds a lot like control the rotation of the skis under a stable upper body.
Yes.
Or the rate of rotation, so we can bring the dirt into it.
Yeah, you need to throw the dirt. That's that simultaneous and progressive, right? I'd like to see a simultaneous rotation of the legs to cause the skis to rotate, to control the rotation of the skis progressively and simultaneously through all 3 phases of the
Phases
turn.
of the turn.
Yeah. Cool. Gay, you still with us? Oh, she's still
I
here.
almost lost you because of a real sound thing. I came from it to it from a different angle, but I'm not so sure it's the approach. Because he uses so much rotary, I was going to suggest the skier needs to move to the outside foot earlier in the turn, so it's side to side movement. And as he does that, he will find that more edging will occur and he'll be able to carve the apex and edge more in the lower part of the turn.
Are you working on your L3 or are you working on your L2?
L3.
Okay, I put you in the wrong group. So that would be yes. So you're speaking to edging and rotation. I'm sorry, edging and ski.
Side to side movements, yeah, ski to
Ski.
ski and edging.
Okay,
They,
so
they were actually working as a pair, Chuck. They came
Yeah.
up with rotary to start and then went ski to ski as a complementary
I like
for
that.
L2.
I like that. I like the idea of standing on a new outside ski as early as humanly possible. You know, that's a big deal to me. Maybe not like this, but you know, kind of like progressively through it.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that would certainly slow the rotation. Because as we get to this position here, if we don't let our tips kind of wander around and we can start to edge the other direction, that's going to keep them from rotating. Because it's really, really hard to rotate an edge ski.
Good
Plus,
point.
In the ideal, aren't the skis supposed to tip before they rotate?
They should tip, they should pressure first, tip second, and rotate third.
I mean, my understanding is
Prioritization, yes.
My understanding is if you are properly balanced forward on the ski, the pressure on that outside ski will generate the start of the turn, and then you'll go into a deeper edge and drive it through to the whoopee point of my turn.
The whoopee, the holy shit moment is
The
what I
holy
like to
shit
call that.
moment. When
Yeah.
the pressure gets released and you're sort of floating into the transition and the rebalancing to go to the new outside ski.
Yes, yes, that would be true. So we always, almost always, unless the skis are off the snow, we always have some kind of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Where we have the pressure is the important part. So we want to have the pressure on the new outside ski here as we extend one leg and shorten the other. That's going to help us transfer pressure. Then, because of this motion, we kind of start getting edging all by itself. We get edging for free.
Right.
Right? And then as we pressure and extend this leg, we're going to get more pressure, feel more pressure on the outside ski, which is going to allow the edge to begin to dig in.
Right.
And as long as we're forward and moving along the length of the ski properly, that should make the shovel of the ski engage.
Correct.
Which is not what he's doing.
No.
No, he's just
Yeah,
kind of shoving the
getting-
tails around.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Roman, do you want to sprechen Sie? Are you just listening in today?
Hello. Well, I can try. My first appearance.
It's entirely up to you. I mean, take a stab at it.
Yeah, I'll try, of course.
All right.
Sure. Why not? Okay, so see here, it's the turns are dynamic in general, but we see splash come from the backside of the skis, and we see that pressure is not translated. Pressure is not transferred properly from ski to ski, and we can see that by in this case by the outside ski is running away from the skier because the pressure is on the inside ski and there's no support on the outside ski, and this skier catches up later, but it's still late because the shaping is compromised by skidding. By helping with the upper body rotation with the upper body initiates rotation.
Cool. That's a very good body prescription or description, what do the skis do? Yeah,
Skis, the skiers are skidding through the
the
turn,
skis are,
from the shaping phase of the turn.
okay. Is one ski, because a lot of what you described seemed like it was ski to ski pressure. Yes? No? Maybe?
And the ankles, we see that the ankles are opening. It's not
Well,
giving the,
yeah, but that speaks to a different fundamental. So let's not get too excited about that. When we're talking about ski to ski pressure, we're talking about one leg flexing and another leg extending. Does that make sense? So it's this motion as we extend pressure to the extend pressure. As we feel more pressure on one ski, we're taking pressure off the other ski.
yeah, but the extension happens on the ski that does not have like extension of the outside ski, which there's no pressure on it. So
There's
that's
no pressure on the outside ski until later in the turn. Yeah,
Yeah.
I 100% agree. We kind of talked about that, right? Because he
right.
kind of lands on the inside ski and then the outside ski moves away a little bit, right? So that's a proper description there of how that pressure is happening. But when, and this is the how, let me put it this way. This is the proper way to describe it. The inside ski is bending more than the outside ski at the initiation into the shaping phase. And then the outside ski, as he lands on it, begins to bend more than the inside ski in the finish.
Mhm.
Now, those of you who are in the L3 also notice there's a discrepancy between one side and the other. Roman, does that help?
Yes,
Cool.
thank you.
So in your MA, that was a really good body description. We just need to tie it to what's happening with the skis. And in our case, in the Rockies, we like to describe what's happening to the skis first, because that's the result. Then we can go to the cause.
I
Which
think
is
that's the
all
trend.
of
Yeah, I think that's what we're also seeing, in our skiing.
No, I thought that was a really, really, really good start. Really good start. No, it's, I mean, you got half of it like down, right? It's just really what's the skis doing too. That was the only piece that I was looking for. All right, David. Oh, all right. You had, oh, I was mean to you guys and Rebecca bailed.
Where's Erica?
I was mean to them. I gave them a bump skier. Hey, man, I mean, there's, come on, I got to throw a wrench in the old ointment
Okay.
once,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right. So what did you see in this skier?
So this skier looks like she's on a groomed blue run, trying to do mostly parallel medium-sized turns that are C-shaped in general on the bumps. And I was looking at rotation, and it
Yeah.
looked like at the initiation of the turn, she was turning her outside ski faster than the inside ski, and then matching the inside ski quickly as she came around through the end of the shaping phase to finish. And I thought from body performance, she did not have good separation of upper and lower body. And particularly down toward the last part of the turn, it looked like she was turning with her upper body on that last turn. I wanted to see her and perform more simultaneous turns with her skis And to do that, she would have had to really create better upper lower body separation, stable upper body, so that her legs could really rotate around and bring the skis around simultaneously.
Cool. When should she be? Okay, let me ask you this. When does the matching happen? When does one ski match the other ski? And
Well, she's
unfortunately,
separated.
we have that.
I thought toward the latter part of the shaping phase into the finish.
Okay.
If I'm looking closely.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
separate there.
it's not the same on both sides, and I'll grant you that, right?
Yeah, so there, the latter, she's together there at the latter part of the shaping phase. And in a quick transition, because she's going through the moguls and she's mostly skiing through the troughs. So she's coming up over the spine, down into the trough, and in the trough, in the latter part of the shaping phase there, to me, she quickly matches her skis.
Okay, so what's the primary mechanism for a rotation for her?
The primary mechanism for ski rotation is leg rotation for steering her legs around by maintaining a stable upper body.
Would that be the ideal or what she's doing now?
No, that would be the ideal. And
Okay,
then
what is she doing now?
to me, she's trying to turn somewhat with her upper body. There's some upper body rotation because she stems out there and she's not, when she's doing that, it's more as if she's putting, well, I don't get into pressure. She's turning her body more as one, like one unit. She's turning her whole body rather than creating a separation of her upper and lower body so that her lower body, her femoral heads, her legs can turn independently of that stable upper body.
Yeah, so she's not doing that, right? She's
Correct. She's not
using the
doing
upper
that.
body. The upper body's then, so give me an indicator. What makes you think she's using her upper body?
When I see her come around, I don't see because her outside ski is turning faster
Right.
initially than the inside ski. If
Uh-huh.
both skis were turning simultaneously together rather than sequentially, then both legs would be turning at the same rate, and the timing of the rotation and the rate of the rotation would be simultaneous, and they're not. So
quickly take a deep breath. Okay. And I'm going to ask you this again. What is the indicator that she's using upper body rotation? And just think carefully. It's really pretty obvious.
Well, she's bringing the right hand around in front of her. The upper body rotation is being led with her hand, her right arm.
And that's causing her what? To do what?
That's causing her upper body to rotate and not allowing her independent separation of her upper and lower body.
Cool. Mike, how'd you like that one?
You know, for all intent and purposes, I didn't have a real problem with it.
No, and that's why I was picking on you.
Good. I have to always coordinate with Mike because I have to spend time with him up at Loveland.
Oh, this is
Fortunately, I'm easy to spend time with.
Yeah. He's got no friends, so that's
true. I'm mostly harmless.
So no, Dave, that was really good. I mean, that was pretty damn accurate from top to bottom. That's why I'm like picking on you about what does that upper body mean? What is the indicator? When she twists with her upper body, she's using her pull plant to twist with.
Yeah, her upper body, yeah.
So one hand moves forward and then it moves back. And then one hand moves forward and then it moves back.
Yeah.
Right. You can see the shoulders twist every single time.
Yep.
So good, accurate description. I thought it was a good, accurate. I mean, you added in the piece about separation. That might ask the question of what do you mean by separation? And then you might have to go into the whole lengthy diatribe of what the hell separation means.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have just said, I'd like to see the legs rotate under a stable upper body.
Mm-hmm. You know,
Which
if
would
you
have-
wanted to get really, really, really picky, and you don't have to, if you notice she has a sway in her lower back starting at about L1.
Right.
Instead of rolling the back this way.
Mm.
Okay, so because of that sway in there and not tightening the glutes under her, that upper body rotation will be predominantly lumbar oriented and won't actually start at the hip flexors.
So she's
Yeah.
starting more at the, and she's starting more in the pelvic region, and that's part of the upper body.
Well, yeah, it starts more in the lumbar region specifically, which
Yeah,
is
it's-
upper body for the
See, yeah,
rotational
you're
for the
right.
stability in the upper body. Instead of starting the counter down in the hip flexors, it's
So
starting
just above
at about
the
L1.
pelvis. Okay.
But that's pretty high level.
Hey, I'm
Jack,
just trying to, I passed
Don't you dare-
CS1, so I'm going for level 2 now.
So, you know,
Don't you dare
my
bring that
statement
up
is
on
at
the
Chuck's
page.
level.
Yeah, don't, if you do that in L2, that's just gonna open up a whole can of worms and you don't wanna go there.
Yeah,
No.
you'll really
And
have
he's
to
right.
understand biomechanics for that one.
I'm just beginning to
Right,
work
because
toward
she
level
has-
2, so.
She has a tushy that sticks out, right? Which means she has a pelvis that's more back than underneath her, rotated forward. It limits her ability to rotate her legs.
Mhm.
Say that again?
Because she has backward pelvic tilt. In other
Chuck,
words,
show
sticks her
a
butt out.
picture sideways online with the
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah, because she sticks her butt out. And it's right about there. Because she
Yeah.
sticks her butt out, and you can see a little break in her back.
Yeah.
See where the weight is slightly over the heels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Rotate-
butt is great for the dance floor, but worthless for skiing.
Yeah, it's the pelvis needs to be rotated underneath you, forward.
Oh, she
Remember
needs
the
the
statement,
pelvis.
feet under butt?
Yeah, that's gonna free up
Yeah,
her legs.
I
to
bet
do
she
that.
doesn't walk with her butt
But
sticking out
isn't
like that.
that addressing more for, you're talking about moving her pelvis or hips
No,
more
not
forward?
necessarily, because we have an L3 skier here in Winter Park who does the exact same thing. And because she does that, it really limits her ability to progressively rotate underneath and pressure the outside ski. It's really difficult to do that because you stand up, stick your butt out and start doing these things. It's really
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah.
But as
Yep,
soon as
take-
you rotate the pelvis underneath you, it frees all that stuff up. Right? So
Okay.
yes, you don't want to look like the girls in the Instagram because that's really hard to ski from. You want to be
Yep.
more tucked underneath.
There's a
Mhm.
reason when people do yoga, they're encouraged to tighten the glute muscles. And since we're all friends here, I like to think of it as farting in high E.
Kimberly's good
Okay,
though.
but when you get those glute muscles and the rest of the core tight, you still have the ability to do this. Okay? But as soon as I take this and I shove this back, all of a sudden I can't move the legs.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as
It's
soon as I get my feet under it with tight glutes, all of a sudden I've got this range of motion again.
Motion. Yeah. Okay. So it limits the range of motion.
Yep.
limits the range of motion.
So it limits everything that involves range of motion.
So do we then compensate with moving our hips to get, so our upper body gets involved in helping turn?
Yes.
With women, the hips is more involved than the upper body.
100%. 100%.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just
Still-
nitpicking at this point for level 2 and even into level 3.
Yeah.
This is
But
just more
since it
about
was
the-
there, let's just touch bases on it because this can create problems when you're working with female students.
Yeah.
Mm.
This is
So-
something that I have been working on like intensively.
Well,
And-
don't do that anymore,
No,
Kimberly.
I'm not. And you know where it really shows up for me is in steeper pitches.
Yeah.
As my skiing falls apart at steeper pitches.
Yeah, because you can't create enough counter. The legs have a limited amount of motion, right? They only move so far. As soon as you tuck that hip, it'll suddenly get a lot more.
Yep.
And being able to resist those forces is really important, and you have to tuck your hip to do that. So, yeah. Get
So,
it.
and from a simplistic, we try to get the hip angle and the knee angle and the ankle angle all the same. In this case, the knees are bent more. That angle is greater at the knees than it is at the other two angles.
Yeah, and her ankles are open there, right there.
So it's really
Actually-
funny. This is one of those stance things that actually affects everything.
Actually, your stance is not bad, right? Because you get the right here.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
not
right
That's
there.
not bad.
It's
But
not
she,
bad.
yeah, she could be.
But it's not consistent.
Uh-huh.
It's just this little piece here, this little arch in their
Yeah.
back,
Okay.
right? And this, if she ticked her hips a little bit more, it allow her to be more progressive and stronger with those legs.
So
I
if
would
she was-
encourage you guys to stand up on your own and then get in a good skiing stance and see in front of a mirror, see how much leg movement you had.
No,
And then
just
do
put,
this stance and then get really low, get back on your heels, get up on your toes and see how it affects your ability to move your legs.
Yeah.
or better yet, put a 225-pound barbell on your back
Mm.
and stick your butt out and see how well that works.
Mhm.
I hope you got a good osteopath to put your back together.
Or really, really ultra strong back muscles, one or the other.
Okay.
All right, we have
Yeah.
beat this thing to death. There's only 6 of us left after so many.
Right, and I don't count, so
Okay.
Exactly. So, Kimberly, please go to bed. It's way past your bedtime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, good night, everybody. That was really helpful.
Okay. I've got to run too. Okay.
okay. Good
Thank
night,
you.
all.
Good night.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you.
That was actually
great.
really good. I
Thank-
would have, I'm not an examiner, but I would have been way less critical of you than a lot of others.
Oh, are you talking to me? Okay.
Yeah, you. Yeah.
Thanks.
I
Thanks.
thought that was a really good description.
Okay.
right? And you defended it well. I needed you to take a breath and
Well, yeah, I'm not used to doing this so much when I'm just starting to do all these clinics for level 2 and all that. So, yeah.
and no, this is what's going to happen in the exam too. They're going to be like, okay, that was really good, but now then when you start getting questions like that, you've passed. And now any answer you have is going to fail you.
Oh, God. Okay.
So
All
you
right.
just stick to what you have already said. That's really the key is, hey, no. This is what I said. I'm going to repeat it until you get sick of me repeating it.
So
Okay.
And then they'll get it, right?
yeah, and I mean what you said, Dave, was great, and Chuck was just probing for the depth of the knowledge that went
Sure.
along
No,
with
I
it.
get it. Yeah. Trying to, it's all learning. Got to learn as much as you can with this. Yeah.
No, at some point in time, I have to be more realistic about like what the exam would look
Yeah.
like. So, my favorite story is with one of the examiners who got me, and I was finishing up my MA, and I did an accurate MA, and he goes, "Hey, so can you tell me about this piece again?" And I looked at him, I go, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then our DO, David Owen, was like the other examiner. He goes, "Just repeat what you said." And I just went through the whole thing again. He goes, "Yeah, I just wanted to check what you were saying." That's what they do. They will do that to you. I mean, it's real. They want you to stand by what you say.
Okay.
So
Pounce
in
on the-
simplified terms, Dave, Chuck was making you feel like you were back in graduate school and you don't know anything, but the professor knows it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've had enough of that in my lifetime.
Yeah, does that sounded familiar? I mean,
Yeah.
but
it's not-
you were trying to defend your thesis there pretty much.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, pretty much made you feel like you know nothing, right?
I know. I went through oral boards in psychiatry and I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. L3's like the PhD and they do it even worse.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And once you hit L3, then they figure you can finally be trained and learn something.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay, I gotta run. Thank
All
you
right.
very
Bye,
much.
You guys
Okay.
have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks
and
for
have a
letting
great-
me join you guys.